time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Chad Erickson. Great to have you with us on this Tuesday edition of the show, where I am flying solo. That's right. Sam off for the next 2 days. It's like we got the kids out of the house. A couple of days of peace and quiet. I'm kidding. We love Sam. But he will be off for the next couple of days, which means I'll have some help from my friends. Nick Ferguson, the former NFL safety, will drop by, talk about the Broncos and Colorado Buffaloes. A lot to get into there. We'll also be joined by Chris Perkins, who does a terrific job covering the Dolphins. Their columnist there with the Sun Sentinel. A lot to talk about with regard to Tyreek Hill, the police. Big game this week against the Buffalo Bills coming up as well. All of those not listed in order of importance, by the way. We'll also be joined by Jason Cole, former, NFL columnist, author, Hall of Fame selector. He will join us as well for a couple of segments in the show to talk about the NFL. We'll have odds and ends at the end of it all. But we start things out with the top NFL stories of the day. And boy, oh boy, it did not go well for the Jets in their season debut on Monday night in Santa Clara against the 49ers. Now, look, I got to fall on my sword. I thought the Jets would be better in this game. I especially thought the Jets would be better in this game after we saw the news that Christian McCaffrey would not be playing as he nurses an injury that's been bugging him throughout training camp and really throughout the offseason. So instead, what do you get? A healthy dose of Jordan Mason, who decided to make himself look like Christian McCaffrey. He ran through the Jets, did whatever he wanted to do en route to a pretty routine win for the 49ers, 32-19. And frankly, it could have been a lot worse than that. Jets got a garbage touchdown down 32-13. Niners kick a bunch of field goals in this game. I think they had scores on 8 straight possessions. Jake Moody had 6 field goals in the game. Imagine if some more of those field goals are touchdowns. We're talking about an even more lopsided game. Aaron Rodgers looked good when the Jets could get the offense going. The problem is they had so many 3-and-outs. He throws an interception. Breece Hall fumbles. The Jets really, in the first half, it was 3 3-and-outs, a fumble, and a touchdown drive of 12 plays. That was it. That was their first half. And meanwhile, the 49ers were just kind of piecing it together as they went and started to suddenly figure out we could run the football at will, so we don't need Brock Purdy to throw for 1,000,000 yards in this game. Still, he made some good throws, 19 of 29 for 231 yards through the air for Brock Purdy in this game. So the Niners 1-0, the Jets 0-1. The Jets will lick their wounds. We'll see how they look in week 2. We know the Niners are going to be great, by the way, so none of that is a shock. The other big story that came out just before the game last night, Roger Goodell and the league could not have been happy that this sort of all played out right before the start of the league's first Monday Night Football game of the year, season number, 55 for Monday Night Football. It was the Tyreek Hill police body cam video. Miami-Dade PD putting out that video. And look, we talked about it on the show yesterday, but we didn't go too deep into it because there was this missing piece of the puzzle, and that was the body cam footage. The police put it out quickly for the sake of transparency. And what it shows is not a great picture for the police. Granted, it isn't a great picture for Tyreek Hill either in terms of his interactions with the police, but they came on so strong, so aggressively on a traffic violation, and why? They came in hot on this, and it was their approach. It was their coming in hot that led to the escalation ultimately. There is nothing in the law, nothing whatsoever that says you have to be nice to a police officer when they pull you over. You don't have to be. You could be yes, no. You don't have to sit there and try to butter them up. And Tyreek Hill wasn't having it, and he wasn't doing that. He gave his ID. You got a cop banging on the glass. Then you got him throwing him to the ground twice. Before all is said and done, they finally realize it's Tyreek Hill, and then it's, this is going to be everywhere. Look, I talked about this on the show yesterday. I have had encounters with the police through traffic violations and the like. And I have been one that has been gifted white privilege in those situations. I will sit here and admit it. I'm not proud of it. I don't think it's a great thing. I don't think it's a good thing for our society that I get treated differently than perhaps somebody of color would. But it's real. These interactions that have such big contrasts between the way some people are dealt with by the police and others are dealt with by the police, it's very real. And you're seeing it on the screen right now. What Tyreek Hill went through on Sunday morning, and I'm not trying to say that, I'm definitely not some Tyreek Hill sycophant. He's had his own run-ins, his own issues with the law over the years. But what I'm saying is, what happened on Sunday morning shouldn't have happened. And it got to the point that it did because of the way the police decided to handle it. And now it'll be investigated. The Dolphins have come out and spoke out on behalf of Tyreek Hill. Their coach was very passionate yesterday, speaking out about Tyreek Hill, almost emotional in discussing that issue. We'll see how it plays out in the days ahead. And we'll talk with Jason Cole about it. Chris Perkins from the Sun Sentinel will join us about it as well. Then there is this story. Stop me if you've heard this one. A woman claiming sexual assault, filing a civil lawsuit, violence in an encounter with Deshaun Watson back in 2020. Again, we have heard these stories before about Deshaun Watson. The league has looked into it. The league has suspended him. The Browns went and gave him the farm. And now Deshaun Watson potentially facing more legal trouble, more legal peril. And I don't think the league is going to be too bashful about potentially putting him back on the bench if this situation plays out in an unfavorable way. And even if it doesn't play out in an unfavorable way. The timing is odd. Coming off of the week one dud that he threw up against the Cowboys. I hate to say it this way, but I think there's a part of me that wish the Browns or think that the Browns are hoping this story goes the wrong way for Deshaun Watson. Because it gives them an out on one of the worst contracts in the history of professional football. Stay tuned, watch this space. We're coming back with Jason Cole, author, Hall of Fame selector, does a great job on the league. He'll join us next on Sports Wrap. We roll along on this Tuesday edition of Sports Wrap. A lot of NFL to get to as we talked about the Monday night game in the opening segment, also Tyreek Hill. Chris Perkins joins us in 10 minutes. He will break up the conversation between myself and this guy. The great Jason Cole hangs out with us on Sports Wrap. He's an author of the book Shut Up, Your Kid Is Not. It's like authors. We had an author last week. Our friend Ian O'Connor stopped by the show to talk about his Aaron Rodgers book. And Jason Cole's got one himself. It's called Shut Up, Your Kid Is Not That Great. It's got a introduction with Tom Brady Sr., and Jason Cole hangs out with us on the show. He's also a Hall of Fame selector. By the way, this is not the only book he's written. It's one of many books he's written, but it's the only one of his books that I physically have a copy of. So it's the one that I have to hold up on the screen. Fair enough, right, Jason?
Yeah, I have to get you a copy of Elway, A Relentless Life. It's a little classier.
I would love to read that. I've been reading the Ian O'Connor book by the pool here, so I would love to.
Text me your address.
I will, absolutely. All right, so let's talk. There's a few things that I want to run through with you here in these couple of segments. First of all, let me get to the one we were just talking about at the end of the first segment, and that's obviously what took place with Tyreek Hill, because the video came out on Monday night, the body cam footage. So you get that. You get Tyreek's statement. You get the Dolphins coming out as an organization and criticizing the way the police handled the matter. What else is there? Is there some other shoe to drop in this other than potentially, legal action by Tyreek Hill, or is this where it ends?
Tyreek's got a problem with legal action. He's got too many skeletons in his closet. He doesn't want to go down that path. I would highly advise him against that if he was thinking about it. Maybe there's an officer who gets, a slap on the wrist, some kind of suspension for a week or something like that. But Tyreek is wrong in some regards, and the cops are wrong in a couple of regards. I mean, they escalate the situation, he should have just rolled the window down. He should not be so argumentative, because he was argumentative in this one. But that's not justification for them using obscenities and throwing him down to the ground. So
twice.
There's a lot of wrong in this situation. And so I don't know that you have a clear winner or loser in this one. I think you have a bunch of losers in this one. And I just go back to, I often smile and laugh about the old Chris Rock video, about how to avoid getting your ass kicked by the cops. Just comply a little bit more. Roll down the window. Tinted windows being rolled up with cops is a high alert situation. Even though this shouldn't have been a high alert situation on a game day when you kind of know this is Tyreek Hill. It's a player. He's got a nice car, all those kinds of things. You should have assessed it a little bit better. But tinted windows scare cops. I mean, if you're gonna do anything to get them riled up, that's one of the first things.
I still can't help but think, and yell at me for going this way. I don't know, but I still can't help but think of Colin Kaepernick when I see something like this, because this is something
and that's why he's not wrong, and the cops are not completely in the right. I'm not trying to justify.
No, I don't think you are. I don't think you are.
I'm just saying, keep the window down.
I'm just thinking all these years. What I'm thinking is just all these years after that, and here we are still at this moment and at this situation.
But we were there.
Again.
We were there for decades upon decades upon decades before, and I just remember this day getting pulled over for a traffic stop one time and being told to get out of the car, and realizing that. I fully complied, did everything I was supposed to do, and I had a gun being pointed at me by some, small town cop in Florida, right? And you can do everything in the world, and sometimes cops just lose their mind and they act crazy because they think they're in some kind of danger, and they have tense jobs, and I get it, but there's a lot of overreach that goes on out there, and every human emotion that goes on in between. So do your best when you're dealing with cops. If you want to just get it over with, just comply. Just comply.
Let's talk about it from the football standpoint. He goes out there and still plays a hell of a game, even after that.
He's a great player.
He is. They get the Bills this week. Everybody's going gaga about Josh Allen after just 1 week. I heard Rex Ryan, oh my God, best player ever. He's you know what? I'll just leave it there. Go ahead.
Great play. The best thing about Josh Allen from week 1 was he made a bad decision. They held the ball too long when there was an open receiver, when he should have gotten rid of it. Held it too long, tried to be a little bit of a hero, fumbled on the play early in the game, cost him a situation. They got behind, I think 10-0 in that game, if I remember correctly. And so they struggled kind of early on. But from then on, he played much more within himself, right? And much more take the plays that are there, do the things that you're a star caliber player for, and the game comes to him and it makes it much, much easier. He is a truly great player. But there is still this little tendency, and he's got to get under control, of making the game harder than it needs to be because he is so incredibly gifted. The idea here is make the game simpler, and that allows your incredible ability to take over. But, he's a fabulous player. He's not the greatest player in the world. And I think that Rex, was trying to say, I can line him up anywhere and put him at linebacker. It's like, I'm down. He's a quarterback.
I don't actually have the Bills making the playoffs. I don't.
They're still the best team in that division.
I actually see, and I know tonight, and we'll get to the Jets in the next segment, but I still think they're the third best. I think they're the third best team in that division.
Yeah, I can't abide that. They have the best quarterback. They have a lot of stars on that team. They are flawed in some ways. They still don't run the ball exactly the way you want to run it. Defense has lost a little bit in the last 2 years, but was still really good last year. If Josh Allen doesn't make the games harder than they have to be, they roll into that division.
Yeah, everybody I've talked to seems to believe that same thing. I'm just maybe I'm just on the island by myself. Maybe for once I'm being the contrarian. Maybe it's me, I'm the problem, it's me, as Taylor Swift would say. Jason Cole's going to hang out with us for one more segment. I got to talk to him about the Monday Night Football game. We haven't even gotten into that yet. We'll do it next. Sports Wrap continues on this Tuesday. Let's keep the conversation moving. We'll get back to Jason Cole in 10 minutes. This guy knows Jason Cole. They've been colleagues at some point when Jason was based in Florida. Chris Perkins does a terrific job with the Sun Sentinel, longtime Dolphins columnist, hangs out with us on the show. First of all, Jason says hello, and he did so in his own very special way. We'll just leave it at that. But I got to ask you, I mean, you've covered a lot of stories in Miami over the years involving the Dolphins, and this one involving Tyreek Hill has to be unlike any that you've covered. Tell me if I'm wrong on that. What has this last 48 hours or so been like in terms of the way this whole thing has gone down between the police, between Tyreek? You have the police union speaking out. Now you have the organization speaking out. We saw the body cam footage, which we played in the first segment of the show, which obviously shows some troubling things. What is your big takeaway on this?
Jason, my big takeaway is a little respect from both sides could have gone a long, long way. Tyreek, you've got to be more respectful to the police. Police, you've got to be more respectful to Tyreek. And this whole thing could have been diffused and avoided. Tyreek just gets a ticket. The tickets get dismissed. We're not even talking about this, but both sides have their chest stuck out and screw you. I'm not listening to you. And that's what happened. I mean, look, this thing is split along racial lines, along political lines. And, it just occurs to me, Jason, that just show some freaking respect toward each other. And we could have avoided this whole situation.
You would know this better than I would. Has this police department, Miami-Dade PD, have they come under fire for these sorts of things before that you know of?
I think they're caught up in a entire police versus blacks thing. I don't know that the Miami-Dade police have been any worse than New York, Chicago, Philly, Detroit, Boston, Houston, Dallas. I do know that, the last big high profile incident for them was Copa America, right? And that's when the Argentina fans and the Colombia fans stormed the stadium. And a big question is, where were the police? Where was the security? And so they were under scrutiny for that. Tyreek, it's a whole laundry list of things with Tyreek, right? There was a social media influencer, female social media influencer sued him in February, I think. He had a divorce petition filed and then mysteriously withdrawn. The police were called to his house for a domestic incident in January. He had the house fire at his residence before the Kansas City playoff game in January. It's been all of these things with Tyreek, and then the police have recently, been under scrutiny, and they're always under scrutiny. So in a way, this was a perfect storm between two parties that have had a spotlight already on them. And in many ways, both sides live down to expectations.
If these guys didn't already love Mike McDaniel, when you watch him and sort of the passion that he puts out there, towards this incident and sort of the way it happened, and just the raw, very real, non-scripted nature of his comments, you can kind of understand why guys in this organization feel the way they do about him.
Yeah, Mike McDaniel is different. He's the genuine article. And, I've referenced this before. There was an incident last season where the Dolphins are playing the Jets and Solomon Thomas, the defensive tackle for the Jets, is down on the field. Mike McDaniel starts walking out toward the field to see if Solomon Thomas is okay. Now, they were together in San Francisco, but different sides of the ball. Right? I mean, Solomon Thomas's defense and Mike McDaniel was offensive coordinator and run game coordinator and wide receivers coach out there. So it just kind of tells you about Mike McDaniel and the relationships that he builds with players, that it's a lasting bond with him. McDaniel is different, and what's going on out here with the Dolphins is different as far as the player empowerment and the amount of time off that he gives them during the season and training camp, veteran rest days, the recovery time from injuries, and just his personal interest in their lives, Jason. I think that with Mike McDaniel, and now it's spreading to this organization, I think that he feels there's more to football than winning. I think that he's happy if he produces a better player, a better overall person than player. I think that that's one thing that really drives him. He wants to win just as badly as any other coach. But Mike McDaniel kind of has this other interest in the entire person. And you don't see that in pro sports very often, and you especially don't see that in the NFL. He is the genuine article.
Chris, give me some thoughts. Kind of let's mold that into the matchup this week. Yeah. Dolphins 1-0, get the win against the Jaguars. Now they'll take on the Bills. Obviously a big divisional game early on in the season. I don't think either of these two teams are going to look the way in week 2, the way they'll look when they meet later on in the season. That being said, what would you expect the Dolphins' approach to be come this Sunday?
Oh, they better stop Josh Allen. That is the whole thing. Look, Jason, Josh Allen is 11-2 against these guys. The Bills have won 13 of the last 15 against the Dolphins. And in the Mike McDaniel era, the last 2 years, the Bills have won, 4 out of 5. Because they also beat him in the playoffs. So, and it just seems every time Josh Allen puts on his cape and he goes into the phone booth and he comes out as Superman and he beats the Dolphins. We see it repeatedly. And we saw last week that Josh has the 2 touchdowns passing, the 2 touchdowns running. So, the dude is ready. And so that is to me, that's the big thing for the Dolphins, that I know Stephon Diggs isn't there. Jordan Poyer is on this side of the ball. Mitch Morse is gone, their center. Micah Hyde is not back. We can go down the whole list. Matt Milano, Tre'Davious White. We can go down it doesn't matter. They have Josh freaking Allen, and he's the guy who causes them headaches. So job number 1 for the Dolphins, you've got to find a way to neutralize Josh Allen.
I got about 25 seconds here. What did you think of the Dolphins playing week 1 against the Jaguars?
It was shaky, but they came out with the victory. They made the necessary plays with the Tua to Jalen Waddle 63-yard pass, Tua to Tyreek 80-yard touchdown, and Jason Sanders with that 52-yard field goal. So they did what was necessary. It wasn't pretty. They came out with the victory. That's the bottom line.
I say this all the time. Week 1 of the NFL season is really like the real tune-up for the season, because nobody plays 4 quarters throughout the whole training camp and exhibition games anyway. So it's almost like week 1 is the real tune-up. Chris Perkins does a great job. Sun Sentinel, Miami Dolphins columnist. Chris, I appreciate it. Let's do it again soon.
Let's do it.
We're coming back with more Sports Wrap. Nick Ferguson joins us next. Let's take it to segment 4, something to consider coming up in 10 minutes. Riding solo today. No Sam Yarnell. He'll be back on Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. We're hanging out with Jason Cole. Does a terrific job. Hall of Fame selector. Also author of many leather-bound books. He's got this one, Shut Up, Your Kid Is Not That Great. And Jason Cole is hanging out with us for a couple of segments on the show today. All right. We did a segment on Monday's show called Overreaction Monday, just kind of for fun. It's tongue-in-cheek. because I don't think anybody should be panicking after week 1, unless you're a Giants fan and Daniel Jones is your quarterback, and I was the idiot the idiot that picked him getting 1.5 points.
Don't bet on games in week 1. Avoid games in week 1.
This is why I shouldn't be living in Vegas. That's why I shouldn't be living in Vegas.
That is correct.
That as well. But talk to me about this Jets performance in Santa Clara against the Niners. A Niners team with no Christian McCaffrey. A bunch of guys that are still kind of getting up to speed because they missed training camp, guys like Trent Williams, and they still go out there and Jordan Mason just runs roughshod all over this Jets team.
Yeah, I don't think people were watching Jordan Mason during preseason. Jordan Mason's a good player. He's a really, really good player and gets his shoulders square. Really good technical runner with good burst and good strength. I mean, my God, I said it as the game was starting. Jordan Mason is nice. He's not Christian McCaffrey, but he's nice. So, I'm not surprised by it. Like, the Jets are really basic defense. They're not elaborate in any ways because they're so talented. When you're really talented, you don't have to be complex. And if anybody's going to know how they play, Kyle Shanahan's going to know how a Robert Saleh defense is going to be run. So I'm not surprised in any way, shape, or form by this result. The Jets crossing the country. Aaron Rodgers hasn't played in a year. He looked fine, but not great. They didn't have a lot. The offensive line is still in some transition for the Jets. This is what you're going to see in week 1 when you got a really talented team that knows how to play against a team that is still sort of up and coming. So I'm not surprised by this result, and I still think the Jets are a good quality football team.
Is there any way for this Hassan Reddick situation to be reconciled?
If he stops losing his mind, he has no leverage in this situation. I don't understand what the player thinks is going to happen. He's got to play, and otherwise his rights toll. I mean, you can show up later in the season, but you just lose more money that way, right? You're just losing money every day that you're not there. So I don't get it. But there's a reason the Eagles got rid of Hassan Reddick. They knew that he didn't get it before. So they bought somebody else's problem. It wasn't that expensive. It's okay. And if he shows up, fine. But I still think the Jets are a quality team. They just lose some depth by not having Reddick.
Speaking of the Eagles, Saquon Barkley looked pretty good in that Philadelphia uniform with 3 touchdowns. And talk about that game in Brazil briefly. Obviously, the Jordan Love injury is what stands out at the end of all of that. What do you do if you're the Packers? Can you afford to see if Malik Willis is capable of working with that offense? Do they have to bring in a Ryan Tannehill? Hell, Sam Yarnell said figure out a way to go and trade for Jameis Winston. Give the Browns a 6th round pick if you have to. I mean, what do you do?
You go get Tannehill or somebody, the next best guy. The Malik Willis isn't going to get it done.
And what'd you think of Caleb Williams' first game in the NFL as we stay in that division?
I didn't think any of the rookie quarterbacks were very good. Even Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels did the best out of all of them. But, it's also he got down by the most, and so there was the least pressure on him. But, Bo Nix was not very good. Even the second-year guys. Bryce Young continues to struggle like crazy. The Tennessee kid whose name is escaping. Will Levis. That was tragic. At least Caleb Williams wasn't Will Levis. That's the one thing I can say for him. He stayed out of the way of the team. But the thing I liked about Caleb Williams after the game is he's like, I wasn't very good. I got to get better. He didn't pretend, or make any kind of excuse. I like that kind of ownership. And they got a taste of the NFL is for real. The NFL is harder, and it's not. Training camp is so dumbing down now that you feel for how this game goes.
Last one before I let you go. Look, I kind of was. I was curious what Matthew Stafford would look like. He's missed some time the last couple of years. The big takeaway I came with that I took from that game on Sunday night against the Lions is man alive, he could still play.
I mean, that arm, there are few human beings who have what I like to call baseball with a football in their hand, which is that they can launch it from just about any angle. Like when you watch great shortstops throw from any angle.
Yeah.
Whether they're going up the middle, whether they're going into the hole, they can change the angle on their throw, do all those things. Like there's a handful of those guys. Josh Allen's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Mahomes is great at Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Matthew Stafford still. Those guys can really wing it. And yeah, he's still right there. They got to get healthy. They're not very deep. And I will say, I really appreciate the Lions in a pressure situation going, we're just going to play big boy football. We're going to put this in the hands of our offensive line, and we're gonna power through you because you don't have Aaron Donald anymore. Everybody's tired. We're just gonna end this game here. I have a certain appreciation for that.
Jason Cole does a terrific job. Our friend hanging out with us on the show, author, Hall of Fame selector. Always appreciate it, my friend. Have yourself a wonderful week.
All right, say hi to Chris Perkins for him.
We're coming back. All right. We have spoken with Jason Cole, Chris Perkins, NFL columnist for the Sun Sentinel on the Dolphins, and Tyreek Hill. Oh, I got one more for you, though. Riding solo today, so I've called in all my friends, and that includes the amazing Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety, former Broncos safety, hangs out with us on the show. From the belly of the beast in Denver, where they're already panicking about their Buffaloes and Broncos, huh? When we start, so I only got 7 minutes with you, so I'm going to jump right in. Start with the Buffaloes. Obviously, they get the close win against North Dakota State, which obviously I didn't get to talk to you after that. But now they get their basically. I mean, they got embarrassed in the first half. Played better defensively in the second half, although Matt Rule and Nebraska might have been a bit more conservative. What's your big takeaway from Deion Sanders' team being 1-1 and the way they've gone about it?
Well, some of the offensive line issues that were kind of prevalent last year under Sean Lewis and Pat Shurmur, they are still there. This team is still a long ways away. I know they went out in the portal, got some young players, got some veteran players, but they're still having the issues. And with me being a former player, but more importantly, coach, I watched the game really different, JP. And as I watched some of the offensive linemen, even though some of those guys are huge, we're talking about 6'6", 6'7", maybe even 6'8", the problem was the footwork. And no matter what sport you play, your footwork has to be dialed in. And that was a problem. And I know because of that, Shedeur Sanders has taken a lot of criticism. But to me, in that game, what can you expect for him to do? Because he was constantly under pressure, similar to what he faced last season. But CU still has some work to do. But here's the great part about it. You're 1-1. And this Saturday, you're going to face CSU, another rival game that you won last year. So gives you more motivation to go out there and, I guess, punch their ticket.
That was a close game, wasn't it, last year against Colorado State? That was closer than it should have been, if I recall.
Yeah, it was. And there's a lot of kind of conversation back and forth going back between the head coach for the CSU Rams and Coach Prime, and then the whole thing about who wears glasses in an interview.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, it was that type of game. But so you know what? Those ill feelings are still there, even though CSU Rams coach is saying, no, you know what? That was last year. We moved on. Yeah, right.
I had Bill Bender on from the Sporting News, their national college football writer, and I asked him the question. It's more interesting to ask you than it is him on this because you're closer to the situation and being there in the state. Is there a shelf life for this team or for this coach, for this regime, a level of patience? What is the breaking point if this doesn't improve to some degree this season?
Well, it all depends on what you are looking for as far as improving to some degree, because we know anytime you take over any team as a head coach, you're going to have your bumps and bruises. Everything is not going to be peaches and cream, but it's because, there's a lot of video out there about the CU Buffs and what they're doing individually and collectively as an organization. But that's kind of alluding to a lot of the pressure and the negative comments about this team. So for me, well, all Coach Prime has to do is go out there and just win, right? And I know the idea is that, hey, Bill Parcells would just say, shut up, go out there and play football. But that's never been in the realm of Deion Sanders and his sons. The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. So the thing is, if you're going to talk about it, you definitely have to be about it. Last game in Nebraska, they were not about it because they were punched in the mouth from the word go, and they never really responded. All you got to do is look at Travis Hunter and the way that he expressed his emotions from not being involved in the offense. So all Prime has to do is win this week, and then the fires will die down just a little until they have to come home and play Baylor.
Give me a thought on the Broncos. There's always going to be people overreacting in week one. Frankly, none of the rookie quarterbacks across the league played well in week one. A lot of second-year and third-year quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins has been in the league forever. Didn't play well in week one. Why is everybody panicking about Knicks?
Because that's what people do. It's like the whole overreaction Monday and your armchair quarterback.
We did it. Yeah.
Everyone wants something to complain about. And like you said, a lot of the rookies guys didn't play well, and some of the veterans guys didn't play well at all. But when you look at the Broncos and the 8 years of missing the playoffs, not being able to find a long-term fix after Peyton Manning retired, it's always a problem. And then here in Denver, you're following John Elway, Jake Plummer, and Peyton Manning. You're always going to be under an enormous amount of pressure to succeed. And no, Bo didn't go out there and light it up, but I knew that. And people here in town, some of my other individuals who work, in the media market, they were like, well, Nick, why are you not picking the Denver Broncos like everyone else? Because I'm like, I'm not a damn homer. I understand how difficult it is to win in Seattle as a rookie. So I knew Bo was going to have his problem. And this is the first chances we're seeing of it. Bo's going to have more problems than he's going to have good games, but that's the growing pain. Even Peyton Manning threw 27 interceptions in his first rookie season.
Yeah, he certainly did. What is the expectation, though? And it's the last one. I only got about 45 seconds here. What is the expectation in terms of growth for Bo Nix as we move over the next several weeks?
Throw passes better. In the game against Seattle, I mean, it's obvious. It's simple, right? Because he was throwing behind wide receivers. He was pressing sometimes, throwing into triple coverage. He is a decent quarterback that has skills. He did show that in the fourth quarter drive, rushing for 23 yards and then scoring on the touchdown to make the game kind of reasonable at 26-20. So there's some ability there. Just calm down, relax, and also the play scheme can help him as well. But more importantly, Broncos had no run game. It's bad enough when you're a rookie under a lot of pressure and you lead the team in rushing.
Nick Ferguson knows a lot about football. I always appreciate you joining me, my man. Hey, don't be a stranger. Let's do it again soon.
All right.
We're coming back. All right, just about time to wrap things up on this Tuesday edition of the show. Yours truly riding solo. Sam will be back on Thursday. Big show lined up for you tomorrow. Keep an eye on my social media. We'll always post updates there on the show. And if you have not done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. It's available on all your favorite podcasting platforms: Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, you name it. We are on all of them. In case you can't catch the show every day, you want to watch it on your way to work, listen to it on your way to work, you can find it there. All right, without any further ado, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends end for Puka Nacua for at least 4 games. Dealing with a knee injury, and Puka Nacua will miss the next 4 games. He hits IR for Sean McVay's team, who suffer a loss in Game 1 of the season in Detroit. Lions winning in overtime on Sunday night. Look, I mean, Cooper Kupp was fantastic in Nacua's stead, but they need Puka Nacua on the field if that team's going to be any sort of contender to come out of the NFC. Matthew Stafford was fantastic in that game on Sunday night, but they're going to need Puka Nacua if they're going to go anywhere. The situation for Jordan Love coming out of that game in Brazil. what had originally thought to be a very serious injury now isn't even going to require a stint on IR, where he would have had to miss at least 4 games. Now, he might still have to miss 4 games because of this injury, but the team is reluctant to put him on the shelf for too long. The more interesting aspect of this Jordan Love injury is what the Packers plan to do in his absence. And right now, that's Malik Willis. And I got news for you. And I don't have the Packers' schedule in front of me, so I can't tell you what their next 4 games are going to be. Let's see here. We'll bring it up real quick here. We'll do this live on the show. That's fine. Packers' next 4 games after their loss in week 1 against Philadelphia. They have the Colts in Green Bay. They have the Titans in Tennessee. Then they're home for the Vikings, winnable game, before playing the Rams. If they could somehow figure out a way to go 2-2 in the next 4 games and get back Jordan Love sometime in mid-October, I think they would be thrilled with that. If this injury winds up being anything more than 4 games, though, they're going to be in some trouble. Then you get the Cardinals. Then they have the Texans. So that's what the next 6 games look like for this team. And again, as of right now, they're still planning to go with Malik Willis at quarterback. See what happens. And again, Malik Willis might, as Jason Cole pointed out earlier in the show, Malik Willis might turn out to be a decent NFL quarterback. The reality is he's not a very good NFL quarterback right now. The Yankees, let's go to baseball. The Yankees finally do it. God, what have you been waiting for? Alex Verdugo's been terrible all year. Of course, last night he hits a 2-run home run and the Yankees win against the Royals. But Jason Dominguez has been called up by the team. The Martian has landed. He will be with them for the remainder of the season. And big question mark now. Who's going to lose playing time? Giancarlo Stanton was on pace basically for a 30 home run season, despite the fact that he missed a ton of time. Verdugo, they paid a ton of money to in the offseason. Where's that time for Jason Dominguez going to come from? It has to come from somewhere, because the Yankees have made it clear they're not bringing up Jason Dominguez to sit on the bench. They're calling him up to see if he can elevate this offense. Speaking of elevate the offense, not shown in the video here in the B-roll, Austin Wells is tearing the cover off the ball for the Yankees right now. I mean, he has become a legitimate offensive weapon in the middle of that lineup. A 4-hit night last night for Austin Wells. Another home run for him. He is absolutely raking right now. Keep an eye on that for the Yankees as they continue to try and eke out that division against the Baltimore Orioles team that just can't get out of their own way. Kumar Rocker, the much ballyhooed starting pitcher in the minors. He was drafted by the Rangers. Well, he was originally drafted, by the Mets, decided not to come up, joins up with the Rangers. Kumar Rocker will make his major league debut on Thursday. Look, highly touted. If the guy could stay healthy, he is undoubtedly somebody that fans are going to love to watch. So keep an eye out for that, Kumar Rocker, to make his start on Thursday. One more. Paul Skeens. If Sam Yarnell were here, he would love this conversation. Struck out 9 over 6 innings in a win on Monday. Brought his strikeout total for the season to 151. That is a franchise record for a rookie. He's 10-2 on the year. I have to say this. I am shocked that they are still trotting him out there. I know he's great for attendance, and fans will come out and watch him. But I have to admit, I'm surprised that the Pirates are still putting Paul Skeens out on the mound and not limiting his innings count. It's something we see a lot of Major League Baseball teams do, especially with young pitchers. I'm surprised that the Pirates keep putting Paul Skeens out there. You know, a guy who's throwing the ball 101, 102 miles an hour, not protecting him potentially from himself. Remains to be seen if there's any long-term effect on that. That's how we're going to wrap up the show. Odds and Ends is a wrap. Sports Wrap is a wrap. Thank you to our guests, Nick Ferguson, Chris Perkins, Jason Cole. Again, Sam will be back on Thursday. I'm back with you on Wednesday, though. I'm good enough, right? Catch you back here then. Have a good one.